And Madison, of course, that's where I spent 10 years of my first bout there after I went to school. And I worked at the Onion. And the Onion, I only worked there almost 3 years, but I had quite an experience. It was interesting to see how they started in the 80s out of a basement of the two guys' house. And then it evolved into this kind of cult thing where they expanded it and started distributing it around Madison, and it just became a grassroots effort. And it became bigger than they could have ever imagined because they started franchising, and now their headquarters moved to New York City. But there I mean, what job can you say? I had to go find a drunk of the week. But you had to make them sign a contract. I'm like, yeah, I always carry. You're really from the Onion? I'm like, yeah, I always carry around a Polaroid camera because it is the 90s. So there was no digital anything or cell phones. So I had to carry around a backpack with the Polaroid camera, a sign that said, I am the Onion's drunk of the week and I am dumb. And then you gave them $2, and then we had sponsors from a cab company and BW3 wings so they could get their munchies too. And they got a safe ride home. But you had to call them the next day because they signed a release form when they're intoxicated. And I had so many people turn me down. Oh, I can't do that. I'm a teacher. I'm like, you were all for it last night. And I'd have to go and do it again. It got old after a while.
Yeah.
But it was fun at first. You know, it was just funny to see their surprise. Like, oh, you're from the Onion? I'm like, no, I always carry around this sign.
That's funny. Who was your favorite drunk of the week that you've ever encountered?
The guy that tried to sign his form with an unlit cigarette. That's not a pen, honey. Not a pen, honey. Yeah, it was good times. And I met a lot of great people through that, too, because you got to know more of the community business owners and a group of talented people like Scott Dickers, who was one of the original founders, was a dropout from film school, but he was more the editorial side. And then Pete Heisey, they were a good balance. He was the sales side. So he was the, hey, the schmoozer, the guy that would sell all the ads. But then what happened is he was giving away so many ads to bulk up the newspaper that they weren't making money. And when I started there, I wore many hats. I was a business manager. I answered the phone. But I also wrote a little bit, and I did Drunk of the Week. So, there was a skeleton staff, and they interviewed quite a few people for my position, but I made them laugh, so they fell in love with me. Anyways, so Rick, what was his name? I think it was Rich. So he called one day, and I'd answer, like, it's a beautiful day at the Onion, because it's a satirical newspaper. And he goes, can I talk to Mark Banker? And he was the ad manager. And Mark Banker wasn't there, so he goes, can I leave a message? And I go, is it meet me in the parking lot with a toy poodle and wear leather? And he goes, no. No. And I could feel him blushing on the other end. But it's just fun to fuck with people because you could there. I mean, they were so irreverent, but because they were such a different newspaper, and I said, why not get that attention? It would sell advertising. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I collected, my biggest accomplishment there was collecting $40,000 in 1 month because I was 21, 22. I go to each business and say, you're Julie, because I'd send them the nasty letters like, you're 90 days overdue. You're Julie. I'm like this cute little 21-year-old. Oh, come on, don't you have $50 you can give me out of the drawers? And that was very successful for me because letters they can just throw them in the garbage. So
yeah.
It was a hard decision to leave, but there were some days I'd be like to the writers, run to the bank.
Yeah.
We don't have much money. Got to go cash your check now. So, but then they just blew up, especially after I lived in Jamaica. I saw they wrote a book and they were doing a movie. And now they're in New York City, and they're all online, and they're huge. So, how
long did you work for The Onion again?
Like almost 3 years.
Okay. When did you start?
I started in, you know what? I was older than that. It was 23, 24. And that was like my very first newspaper job.